This week on Empowering Midlife Wellness, I'm reflecting on New Year's resolutions. Now we're a few weeks into January. How are they going? Are they sticking? If they're not, what can we do to reset? Got a few of my little personal tips and tricks here today. Hi friends, and welcome to this week's episode. If you're just joining me, I'm Dr. Susan. I'm a board-certified gynecologist and certified menopause practitioner, also a certified life and leadership coach dedicated to taking care of women in midlife, helping women like me age as gracefully as we can and have the best rest of our life that we can. So today I'm going to kind of put on my coaching hat again. It's getting towards the end of January, and many of us made New Year's resolutions on January 1st. Right about now, often they're starting to kind of get forgotten about. So I wanted to kind of circle back on what it was that we decided to do on January 1st and how's that going. And in as much as maybe it's not going as well as it could, what's another way that we could approach it so that you can continue living in whatever intention that you set on January 1st. So I'm going to tell you a few kind of ways that I approach it. I'm not going to say they're tricks, but if they're helpful to you, great. If they're not, throw them away. But there's a word that I really love, which is intention setting. So this year I didn't make New Year's resolutions, so to speak, but I just recommitted to my intentions to act a certain way, whatever that might be. It happened to be January 1st, right? So it's kind of an arbitrary date, but this calendar date just gives us an opportunity to stop for a second and think about, okay, what happened last year? What's looking like might be in my future? What did I do well? What am I celebrating? What am I navigating? What are my challenges? What did I not do so well last year that I'd like to improve on? Just a moment to reflect and then to regroup and make intentions for this year so that we can walk into it and be even more successful. So that's what New Year's resolutions are designed to do, but if I use the word intention, for me that just resonates a little bit more. So I actually set up a group of friends, and we have a text chain. Every morning we send our group our intentions for the day, and that's a really cool idea. I encourage you to try to do that with a couple of friends every morning. As soon as you wake up, first of all, just reflect inside yourself. What am I walking into today? How do I want to show up? What's my intention for how I want to be today and then in the future? And then share it with people because, just like if you decide to give up smoking or drinking, if you tell people about it, it gives you some accountability, and it's really fun to hear what other people's intentions are. So on the first of the year, just my example, you might have different ones. Many of us might have set an intention to clean up our nutrition, maybe reduce alcohol, maybe change our exercise regimen, for example. And if that's working for you, great. Now, if it's not, here's a couple of ways that I look at it. I'm actually going to go through 3 different kind of avenues that I use if I'm finding that my intentions are not sticking. The first one is asking myself whether I'm approaching it from a this is something you should do viewpoint, because that's coming from an outside motivation. So if I said on the first, all right, it's the first, so you should drink less, and you really should weigh 10 pounds less, and you really should exercise more, that external voice is ultimately not going to work long term. So we want to be motivated from inside and, maybe think about making intentions that really deeply resonate with what you truly believe. In the book that I'm writing, and I've mentioned this in some previous episodes, I kind of circled around the word heart code. I mean, there's different words for it. Your intuition, your North Star, compass, I don't know, whatever works for you. For me, I felt like it was a heart code because I could feel it in this area when I'm doing something that I know is good for me, that I really believe is good. And I felt like it was a code because it's a little obscure. You kind of have to decipher it. It's not so obvious all the time. You kind of have to feel into it. So, for example, if I said, okay, I should really exercise more this year, let me drag myself to the gym, you can see why that's very unlikely to work long term. But if I can really resonate with, all right, here's the deal. I know that exercise is good for me, it'll help me to live longer, to be more healthy, to not develop illness as I get older so that I will be less of a burden to my family. So I really want to do this, and I'm motivated to do it from inside. Nobody's telling me I should do it. I'm telling myself that this is good for me. So you could do the same activity from a different point of motivation. So the things that work, the things that last long term, are internally motivated. So that's one of the avenues that I use if I'm trying to figure out why something isn't sticking or why I'm continuing to maybe repeat certain behavior patterns that are less than healthy. Just feeling into, what is going on here, and am I trying to do something that I really don't feel resonates with me? So that's one thing. So you could still exercise more if that's something that you truly believe is good for you, which I hope you do now because you're educated about it, to eat healthy food. Now, again, if that's like, oh, I should eat healthy food, let me eat this awful food, of course we're not going to want to do that. But if we're falling in love with healthy food because it's providing nutrition for our body so that we can be healthy and vibrant and have more energy, that's a different story, and that's going to stick. So, for example, I've been doing my 120 grams of protein. Thank you to my trainer, Kelly Workman, who reminds me of that regularly on our intention setting chain, because I know that eating appropriate amounts of protein are good for my body. It provides nutrition for my muscles. It's going to help me to be stronger so that I can live longer and not fall down and break a bone, and etc. So now it's not so yucky to drink my protein powder. I'm doing it willfully, joyfully. So I just think that's a really good way to look at it, to start doing things that we really believe are good for us, and then they stick. Same with less alcohol and all the other things that we feel like are being told to us from outside. Oh, you need to do this because you're a bad person. No, I want to do this because I love myself and I want to be healthy. I love my family. I don't want other people to have to take care of me. It's an act of generosity. And that's one of the things that I'm writing about. Okay, so number one, if we're reflecting on whether or not our intentions are sticking, just checking in with where's the motivation coming from. Number two, now this one might sound weird and morbid, but it isn't, so hang in there. I reflect frequently on this particular 5 statements that's very prominent in Buddhism. Now, you don't have to be a Buddhist. These are just 5 statements that are basically irrefutable. And if we reflect on them, they really help to just reset everything and make us not worry about the small stuff and just refocus on the big stuff. They're called the 5 remembrances, and there's a lot of different translations, and I'm going to give you a new one made by me just to make it really simple. It kind of goes like this. Number 1, I am of the nature to get old. There's nothing I can do to stop getting old. Number 2, I'm of the nature to get sick. I'm going to get sick. My body's going to fall apart in some way or other. Number 3, I'm of the nature to die. I am going to die at some point. Number 4, this is where it gets a little more sticky. Everything I care about and everything I love is of the nature to change, and it will be taken from me in one way or another. Ouch, now it starts to hurt, right? My kids are going to die, my car's going to get scratched, my money's going to disappear, maybe when I die or maybe before, who knows. And the last one is, okay, if basically everything's impermanent and all of the things I just said are true, I'm going to get old, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to die, so is everybody else. That sounds pretty depressing. Here's the good part. The only thing I can affect is my actions. My actions are my only true belongings. They're the ground on which I stand. So think about that for a second. That sounds morbid, but if we really sat for a moment, and in our country in the West, we don't think about death. We dress it up. We put people in makeup in a coffin, and we don't talk about death, and we sound surprised when our grandmother passes away when she's 95. It's like we're taught to just pretend it's not going to happen. So thinking about death a lot, that's my second suggestion. Not to scare you, but the opposite, just to realize the preciousness of everything. So if I'm wasting a lot of time wondering what to eat, or should I exercise, or I'm watching TV and spending 4 hours a day on Instagram, I'm wasting this very precious life that's very short. And so I think reflecting in some way on just the impermanence of life and how precious things are, like our children, our pets, our physical belongings. And yeah, when our car gets a scratch, that was gonna happen. And to kind of roll with it and not let those things be so surprising. Like, oh my God, my 90-year-old grandfather died. It's like, yeah, that happens, right? So at this point in life, I think really recognizing that helps me to stick with my intentions or to circle back to them. I can tell you, last year, I had a lot of moments when I did not stick to my intentions. I didn't feel good, and we've talked about this before. If you want to feel good, do things you feel good about. That's one of my favorite sayings. Again, if we're doing things that are not in line with what we know is right, we feel terrible, right? If you yell at someone or you're dishonest or something of that nature, we're not going to feel good because we're not acting in line with what we know is great. So if we want to feel good, do things that a good person would do, right? It's super simple. And what's a good way to do that? Here's my third one. Go back to the basics. Generosity, gratitude, forgiveness. So I wrote a whole paragraph about that in the book that you'll be seeing later on this year. If I'm stuck in a shame spiral, like, oh, I'm a bad person, I did something that wasn't good, or I didn't do well with my diet last week, I forgot to exercise, I'm just gonna eat ice cream and sit on the couch because I'm a big fat loser. No, that's shame. Let's not do that. Let's circle back to the old favorites. They always work. And the good thing about these three is they can work immediately. These are like quick fixes. Generosity, gratitude, forgiveness. So generosity I put at the top because, long story short, when we're generous, we are acting from a place of abundance, because you cannot be generous if you're in a place of not enoughness. It just doesn't make sense. When I feel like I'm not enough and I don't have enough, I'm going to be holding everything in here and being in that tight place where I don't have enough and everything's wrong and I'm grabbing everything for myself, whether it's physically or emotionally. I'm not being generous, right? And so if we're generous, we are coming from a place of abundance because we've got enough to give away, and just fake it till you make it. If you're feeling tight and small and you're like, I don't have enough and everything sucks, fake it. Go be generous, and it will just break that open. Even if you're like, I really don't want to, I'm not feeling generous, do it. Just go, all right, I'm going to suck it up, I'm going to do something generous. And something generous might be give a compliment to a friend. Give a generous assumption to somebody if they seem to be doing something and there's two possible stories, just give them the benefit of the doubt. Of course, you can give money if that's an option for you. You can give time or service. It's really easy to be generous. Just say something nice to someone in the elevator, whatever it is. Those are all acts of generosity that break us out of that, what I call navel gazing. Everything's about me and oh, poor me and that. So generosity, okay. Because that breaks you right out of it. And going back to our intentions to do good things, I'm just going to say in whatever manner you set a New Year's resolution, I am just quite sure it was in the general category of do good things. Okay? So whatever that looks like for you. So if we want to do good things, that's a good way to start. Generosity, okay, gratitude. Now when we're thankful for things, and okay, everybody's tired of gratitude practice, it's kind of a little ho-hum, but it is critical. If we're sitting around thinking about what's wrong and everything's wrong and what's wrong with this, again, like, okay, everything in the world's great except it's too hot and I wish it wasn't raining or whatever. We're again going back to that place of not enoughness. So just stopping that and noticing, all right, even if I feel like crap, what is something good? Anything. Once you start finding them, there's lots of things. Even if it's the worst day, your husband just left you, your kids just went back to school, parent died, dog's sick, everything's going to hell. Okay, what's something that I'm grateful for, right? I've got a soft chair, I've got electricity, I've got running water, and then it gets easier, and it gets easier. I love my dear friend Meg Ellis, my co-coach, who says what you appreciate appreciates. It means the more gratitude you give, the more you're able to see things that are good, and it is kind of like a snowball. So Those two are just good old favorites, and you can do them on the spot. If you feel terrible and tight, go do those two things. Guarantee you'll feel better. And the third one, forgiveness. Okay, so we're going back to how are our New Year's intentions / resolutions going? Yeah, maybe they're not going so well. Maybe you didn't do them at all. Maybe you screwed them up after the first 2 days or 2 minutes. Forgiveness is most importantly to yourself. It's just saying, okay, I did the best I could, and I'm going to start over. We get to start over every day, every moment. So we might have other people to forgive, too, who have done us wrong in a certain way. I love this other quote. Got lots of good one-liners today. Forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past. I just went to my home country of New Zealand and saw a bunch of family members, including some that practice was very useful for giving up all hope of a better past. What happened, happened, and then I'm going to leave it. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to accept what happened and move on, because if we're holding on to bad energy, it's just hurting us. The person that did us harm is fine. Right? So it's just allowing yourself to be free. So forgiveness is just not letting someone else shut down your heart. It's walking around with an open heart, which is another way of describing generosity, walking around with an open heart, right? And gratitude is acting from that open heart. And forgiveness is not allowing anybody to close it. Like, your bad action is not going to shut down my open heart. I'm bulletproof in that sense. And that could even be my own bad, in quotation marks, action. So forgive yourself if you didn't stick to your New Year's intentions. So if you can do that, I think that's a really great way to reset, and it works really well for me, because I can tell you what, I had some New Year's intentions that did not go 100% every day, but you can start over. And so 2024, it was an amazing year. Lots of great things happened. And there were a handful that didn't go as planned. And so every morning, intention, okay, how is it that I want to walk into this, whatever it is that I have in front of me, this work day, this family day, this walk with my dog. I want to show up. My intention is to show up in a way that's not going to create harm. That's my personal intention. I want to be someone who is safe to be around. So I'm going to go around the world in a manner that doesn't harm people. That means I'm not going to hurt you. You can trust me. I'm safe to be around. Do I always succeed? Hell no. But then I come back, make amends if I can, and then start over. And then my other intentions, like the ones we talked about, eating healthy food, regular exercise, getting sleep, cutting down on alcohol. I'm approaching all of those because it sits well with my heart code. Feels good. I know it's a good thing to do. And when I do that, I feel good. So if you want to feel good, do things you feel good about. If you are doing things you don't feel good about, you're going to feel like crap. And then you can break the cycle by doing those practices. Gratitude, generosity first, and then forgiveness. Forgive yourself. You're a human being. Nobody sticks to their New Year's resolutions. I promise. Not all the time. I didn't either. So if you learned something today, please don't forget to subscribe, share it with your friends, and I can't wait to see you next week. Don't forget to check out the Well Past Midlife Masterclass starting in February. Registration is open. First course is either sold out or close to it, so get in there now and sign up. We may be adding a second class if the first one fills up as fast as it looks like it's going to, so can't wait to see you there. See you next week.